Right, hello everybody, Adam Clery, ACFC and Arsenal obviously are out of the Champions League and in a tie where I think it's very easy to just go, oh well, we're beaten by the better team. You see, the thing is, I don't think they were beaten by the better team. I think across both legs, they were the better team and should have gone through. And I think if you look at this, and you look at this, and you look at this, and you look at this, you can see that. And if you look at this, you can actually prove it as well. But at the same time, the reason why they didn't go through, beyond simply just PSG being very good, isn't just, oh, they need a centre forward. It's considerably bigger than that. So let's talk about all of that right now. But yes, okay, before we start, well observed, I have broken one of my fingers yet. Do you want to see that? Shall I show that to you? Is that really gross? Is that weird? I'll do it really quickly, right? There you go. If you really want to see that, you can go back and pause it. Ow. But yes, right. Anyway, so what did Arsenal actually do wrong across both these legs? Well, if we start with the first leg, this was the 11 they started with for that. The answer is honestly nothing, really. It was just decided by, like, the finest of margins. And even the thing that PSG team was trying to do to this Arsenal team, you could see in the game, they were set up pretty well to stop. Now, I'll show you what I mean here, right? Because PSG's plan, especially in the first leg, but also always, is to bait you into going lopsided. They want to focus their build-up through three players, and that can happen in a number of different ways. Like either the fullbacks, they both push. God, this is so hard with my hand. They push up and the goalkeeper joins in, so you get your three like that. Sometimes only one of the fullbacks pushes up, usually Hakimi, and then this fullback stays, so you got your three that way. And then sometimes even from here, they'll rotate and the fullback will then go up and Vitinha will drop in, so you've still got that three. And more importantly, they will try all these different combinations across the course of the game to see which one is more likely to draw one of the wide players out of the press. And then once they have done that, either the central players will come across of their own volition, creating this gap, or they'll try and drag them out there with their own midfield players. But either way, you end up with this big central space for Dembele to drop into. He gets turned, he runs, you promptly fill your kecks, and that is how PSG just tend to play. And if you look at the nice little graph Opta made of the entire passing sequence leading to that PSG goal, can you see it with all this? I'll just move it, that might look terrible. The entire passing sequence, you can see how patient they're willing to be to find that opening. But they knock it around for like 20 or so passes before finally ending up in this situation here, and that's their back three that they want to have, and that is Saka taking the bait and coming out of the midfield line. So what they've done is they've created this space here, but that's not the space they want to exploit. That's the space they want to force Arsenal to cover. The Rice and Marino aren't going to fall for that easily, so what Vitinha and Ruiz both have to do is start to motion from that central area into it to make it look like that's where they're going to receive the ball. And honestly, the movement here is just absolutely unreal. Like, they both go at the same time. They both keep checking over their shoulders to make sure they're being followed in there. And then once that bait has been taken, you've got all of this space, and that's where the pass goes. It is a level of press manipulation not seen outside of general elections, and that is as edgy as I will get ever. Ow. Ow. Bandage keeps slipping. And yes, okay, that's how they get in for the chance that leads to the goal, but it still requires this sort of organizational mix-up from Rice, Marino, and Saka to enable the shot to come in. It wasn't that they completely ripped them wide open, but then even when he hits it, that's 11 players they've got back. 10 of them are between him and the goal. It's not some enormous mistake. It again is a tiny, tiny margin. And look, I'm not going to get into XG yet, but if you give Dembele that chance like 10 more times, realistically, how many of them does he score? One? None? Like, there are several billion realities out there in the multiverse where this just rolls harmlessly wide or hits somebody's shin, and it's actually quite a useful 0-0. Also, we're all lizards. But more importantly than just infinite probability and all of that is the fact that chance never happened again. They almost never went lopsided again. Saka did double up on Kvaratskhelia, and they even found a way to play through PSG's press pretty quickly. Like, it was man for man in the opening minutes, and they were sort of struggling with it. You can see they're giving it away here lots, but then they adapted. They just sort of went really long. Instead, they reasserted themselves and they got back into it. And like, momentum graphs are obviously a very unscientific way of looking at a game of football, but if you look at it from the first leg, you can see that. They're getting absolutely dominated here, then the game is more even here, then they get themselves on top here, and they only start losing control at the end when they are really pushing for that equaliser. Tells its own tale. So the problem then in the first leg was not the system or the game plan. I think Arteta got both of those absolutely spot on. The problem was that he brought a knife to a gunfight. And in the second leg, the exact same thing happened. Those opening 20 minutes, right, how Arsenal pressed was up there with the most effective and the most aggressive, just sort of out of possession plans ever seen a team have. They basically decided that the solution to stop themselves going lopsided like this and dragging players across was just to crunch every single player in that midfield and even the defence further up the pitch and just close off that space entirely. And at 0-0, PSG had zero answer to this whatsoever. Zero. And thus this, and yes, very well spotted, everything is upside down because it's a Opta thing, so it's a home and away, it's reversed, it's just, don't worry about it, all right? This is every single turnover that Arsenal forced off PSG in just that first half. So it's not like straight passes, it's tackles, it's interceptions, recoveries, it's stuff like that. And look at how many of them are in what you would deem to be a really good place to be winning the ball back. Somewhere PSG would want you to not win the ball back. Just to give you a bit of context here, while all of these are Arsenal's, these are PSG's in the exact same time period. So as you can see, that is a lot. And from these, they were able to create chances, but they didn't score. But Arteta also solved the Saka problem he had in the first leg. Like, PSG were just so good at doubling up on him. There was always too many bodies, too many baddies. He couldn't do anything, and they fixed that. This is early on in the second leg, and just look where Jurrien Timber is in the build-up here. That's absolutely nuts. Physically pinning the left back infield so that Saka can have all this room, and the only player capable of marking him now is Kvaratskhelia, who's got to come all the way back to get him. Which, I mean, of course he does do, because everybody in that PSG front line worked really hard. But by the time he gets there, Mendes can't just leave Timber here on his own to go and double up with Saka. They've already got an underlap and an overlap built in by the time they get the ball there. So it kept giving Saka really good 1v1 opportunities, which he was not getting in the first leg. They solved that problem. And it meant that Bukayo Saka went from having this heat map in the first leg where he's barely able to get into the box, where he's hardly ever able to get to the byline, to this heat map in the second leg, where you can see his efforts are far more concentrated in the most dangerous place for him to be. And again, Arsenal were able to create chances from this, but they did not score them. And on top of that, still the other major problem that Arsenal had in this game was a lack of chances in this optimal zone. Like, these are all their efforts on goal from the first leg, right? And from open play, so bin them two because they were crosses, from open play, there's nothing where you want your chances to come from. But again, Arteta fixed that in the second leg. So they made a real effort to get Rice into the box alongside Merino because they're both two great headers of the ball, and they supplied them with loads of crosses. They had a grand total of like 11 or 12 in the entire first leg, and they had more than that, 14 in just the first 45 minutes of the second leg, which then thus changes all their open play efforts on goal in the first leg from looking like this to looking like this. And now they've got absolutely loads in that optimum zone, but they did not score from them. And yeah, okay, I am saying did not score an awful lot for a team who did literally score, but I'm talking about like before it got to 3-0, when it was still a contest. By the time that goes in, their chance is gone. This is when they could have actually won it. Like, they even added long throws to this plan, which again did create chances, but again, they did not score from them. So the point I'm trying to make is that it wasn't the system or the game plan. They kept getting those right. They kept making the right tweaks and the right adaptations. The problem was that they brought a knife to a gunfight. And by a knife, I mean Leandro Trossard and Martinelli and Declan Rice. And by gunfight, I just mean scoring fucking goals. Through every single thing they got right about the game plan and the strategy and the tactics and all of that, they made this, and they made this, and they made this, and they made this, and they did not score any of them. Dembele and Hakimi got these, and did. And that is just all this tie really came down to. And just to, like, forewarn you here, I am going to talk about XG. Arsenal made, like, 2 XG in the first leg and scored 0 goals, and they made over 3 in the second leg and only scored 1. You cannot have that many opportunities and only come away with 1 goal. Not if you want to win the Champions League. Meanwhile, the actual XG of PSG's individual goals, and this is a tweet from XG Philosophy, by the way, who have loads of fun with this stuff, you would not regard a single one of these, based on the numbers, as good chances. When you look back at them, none of them are. But PSG and the players taking those chances were just ruthless, and that's what really, really elite players tend to be. And I mean, oh well, obviously, Adam, so you're just saying the need to buy a centre forward at the top end of the pitch to put all these chances away. I mean, well, gee gosh, thanks for that. Not like everyone's been saying it all season, right? And well, okay, first off, don't really think the tone was necessary there, just trying to make a nice video for you. That would help to an extent, but it would not fix the core underlying problem that Arsenal have. While they did create chances in this game, enough in my opinion to win the tie, Arsenal at the very top level, in the very biggest games, have an overall creativity issue, I think. If I told you that per 90 minutes in the Champions League, so take the total number and divide it by how many matches they've played, PSG ranked second in the entire tournament for the number of chances created, where would you say, what would be your guess for where Arsenal rank out of all those 38 teams? I'll give you a second. Where would you guess Arsenal are? PSG was second. You done? You got an answer? Right? Well, it's 17th. And look, don't get me wrong, it's not the end-all be-all as a start. Like, Inter are pretty low as well, and they are going to be in the final. But when you are as low as that for creating chances, it's really, really hard for you to get through the latter stages. But the bottom line is that when you are creating but never creating enough, and what you are creating isn't getting put away, then in these really big matches against the elite level teams, you're very, very rarely going to win. Like, even if you look at Arsenal's record against the quote-unquote Big Six in the Premier League, they are undefeated in the last 10, right? But just look a little closer. If, and yep, granted, this is a pretty big if, you take away the 5-1 against Man City, because it's just such a statistical outlier, doesn't really make any sense, right? Again, big if, but if you did, then the record against the quote-unquote Big Six is 1-5, drawn 4, scored 13, conceded 8, and 4 of those 5 wins are by 1 goal. Newcastle beat them 2-0 home and away in the Carabao Cup. They went out of the FA Cup to Man United at home. And in fact as well, Saka's goal towards the end of the PSG game made it 1 goal scored in their last 7 semi-finals. That's astonishing, isn't it? And just the point I'm trying to make with this video, by showing you how they did so much right in a tie they were ultimately well beaten in, is because this is a really, really good team with a potentially great manager looking after it, and yet it is still just missing elite players at number 9 on the left wing, arguably even in midfield. And like, the structural side, the organisation, the tactics, the training ground stuff will only get you so far in these big competitions, and you need the quality to carry you the rest of the way. And Arsenal have that first bit in abundance, arguably more than any other team in the competition, but they are woefully, woefully short of the other bit. And the problem they got there is that other bit tends to be, unless you get really lucky, really, really expensive. So yeah, that's why I think Arsenal probably deserved over 2 legs to actually beat PSG, but also at the same time, why that was never going to happen. But Arsenal fans, though, you watch them more than me. I did like to know what you think in the comments below. Was you just beaten by the better team? Is this kind of indicative of the problems you've got, or were you a bit unlucky? Just let me know how you feel, thoughts. Get your soul out. Do nice things. Write them down there, and I will read them. That sounded weird. You get me across all the social medias at Adam Clery, Clery. Of special interest to those of you living in North London, I'm still doing the Hackney Half in like 10 days. And I know what you're thinking. You don't need a finger to run the Hackney Half. But I did also, in the same game of football, I did this, tear my quad ever so slightly. So I've now got the added peril, as well as having bad knees and a weird heart, of my legs potentially unfurling like a cheese string. So if that's of any amusement to you, you can sponsor me at the link in the comments. It's going to a really, really good cause, and I may get quite seriously hurt. And yeah, obviously, just on top of that, please don't forget to subscribe to us here at ACFC. You think you wanted to win the Champions League? You do not know how much I want 100,000 subs before the end of the season. Nearly as much, I would argue. Sorry, Arsenal. I was pulling for you here as a quote-unquote neutral. But always next year. Goodbye. Bye. Oh, get this off. Ow, 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 ow. Ah. Oh, I've got a bit of Watsits in it. Oh. God, it's still really broken.